So before this video begins, I want to let you know that unfortunately the screen capture on the laptop had completely been messed up. So to give you an idea of what the controllers responded like, I re-recorded some of the inputs later and put it over the screen instead. But if you see some inconsistencies between what's on the computer screen and what's happening on the recorded screen, then that explains it. But nevertheless, I hope you can still enjoy this video. So welcome to this quick video. I don't know if this will end up being an actual YouTube video. But today I want to test 6 PlayStation 3 controllers which I got in yesterday. I bought them from eBay for in total 25 euros. So I think, or 26 euros, so 19 euros for the actual controllers and then 6 euros shipping, so not too bad of a price, I think. And today I want to test each of them and see what the general problems look like, and maybe if these seem fixable. So I will just start off with controller number 1. I will put a stick on each of these so I will know what controller got what diagnosis. So there we go. This is controller number 1. So I will plug it in right now and then we will see what happens. This is, by the way, a 2EA, so I think this might be one of the later version controllers, which does not make me very positive on this being a possible fix, but I will of course always try my best if this thing can get connected in the first place. Oh, there we go. So let's start with testing the analog sticks, which are pretty good centered actually. And L3 works as well, the right analog stick. Also works good. Okay, now do the right button, so triangle, square, X, or circle I meant, and now we do square, and they all seem to work fine. Select and start. The PlayStation button, and L1 and L2. Okay, so far so good actually. Wow, did not expect that. And of course, as you might see, there are 2 programs open. I still don't know why, but with these PlayStation 3 controllers, I cannot get the D-pad and the back buttons to show up. So I hope this will be visible. You need to focus on button 9 and button 10, I think. And those will turn gray on the left side of the computer if I press them in. So I will do that right now for L2, which presses gray, as you can see. And now for R2, which also presses gray. So now I only need to do the D-pad. I will start on the right button 6, as you can see, and that works. And button 7, 8, and button 5 apparently. So I started wrong, but this controller is, I think, working. So that's absolutely great news. So it only needs a bit of a cleanup, as you can see. On the camera it's a little bit dirty, but it's in great condition otherwise, so that's an absolutely great start. So controller 1 only needs a clean. I will write that down quickly for reference. What I just realized when writing this down is that maybe the problem might be in the wobbles. Those tend to go faulty relatively often on these controllers, so maybe there's a problem there, but that's at least an easy replacement, so I'm still pretty positive about this. So let's move on to controller number 2. As you can see, here is controller number 2. First impressions, it's not very clean. This is a 2E, so it has nothing behind there, no other letter, so this is a older model, which and we know what to expect. Well, I would be expecting a foam issue. I'm currently checking the USB port, but that looks absolutely fine. The thumbsticks are a little bit yellowed or just dirty, but let's just plug it in and see what shows up. Okay, so again the N-locks are absolutely fine, are pretty good centered. What I forgot to do on the previous one is we can test the circularity of the N-lock sticks, by which we need to spin the stick slowly. And there's average error of 20%, which for PlayStation 3 controllers is pretty normal. I know that on PlayStation 4 and 5 the error is much lower, but this is pretty good. And also on the right stick it's even better, but this is perfectly fine, these sticks. So let's now test the triangle at side buttons, the triangle and circle, cross and square. Then select start. Then the L1 and L2, again working fine. I will try now to press down on the analog stick to see if any other buttons show up. To see if maybe the foam is faulty. You see on the left side the axis and stuff, but that's just for me spinning the analogs. I think the foam might be okay, but I will probably still thicken it a little bit because it's definitely a thing that very commonly fails in these controllers. But anyway, let's move on to the left side of the computer and press the D-pad button first. So button 5, scroll down a little bit, button 5, 6, 7 and 8, all working fine. Now L1 and L2, also working fine. So again, this is a controller that most likely only needs a clean, and maybe the rumble might be faulty, but I will test these later on a PlayStation 3 and then we will see if the rumble is actually faulty. But it's looking good so far. So let me write it down and then we will go to the next controller. So now for controller number 3. This one is in the worst condition so far of all controllers. And unfortunately it's missing the back sticker, which is not really a big deal. I have some spare ones, but I have no idea what type of controller this will be. I already tried looking through the analogs here, see if I can see what type of analog stick is on the inside, but I don't know. And the USB port is looking okay, so I will just plug it in and then we can see what happens. Okay. The analog again are looking very good. There's no stick drift whatsoever. I will just spin it to see what the error is like. Around 20% there. And 19% on the right side, so that's perfectly fine. I'll test these face buttons. Working perfect. Select start. Working good. L1 and L1 and R2. No, L1 and R1. Wow, I cannot believe this. L1 and R1 working fine. So again, we go to the left side of the screen and test the D-pad and the shoulder buttons and L3 and R3. And again, no problems. Wow, that's pretty amazing actually. I will see if I can get the buttons to space, but it does not look like it. Nope. I'm doing the inputs here. So yeah, again, This will need a clean. I know the front is looking pretty tough with here some of the plastic that has been basically been worn due to the analog moving against it constantly, even on the right stick. But honestly, it's not too bad. So again, this will need to clean, and then also a new sticker, and yeah. And of course, again, it could be the rumble, but yeah, I will test these a bit more in depth later. I don't have the time for that right now, unfortunately. So let me write down the problem. Really short. And now we will go to controller number 4. So let me give it a sticker real quick. Oh, it's not supposed to do that. Okay. So yeah, this is a 4. It's supposed to be a 4. There we go. And this one does have a sticker and says A1. So this is most likely one of the last revisions of the PlayStation 3 controllers. And in terms of visual inspection, you can see that it's totally destroyed on this side. And it doesn't even close properly anymore. And also right here, it's completely broken. So the back is a complete write-off, unfortunately. I cannot repair that. And the USB port is looking okay. It's a little bit skewed, but that is pretty acceptable. So I will plug it in and we see what the problem is besides the destroyed back of the controller. Okay. Yeah, there we go. So it's connected. The sticks, yeah. It's a little bit of stick drift on the right analog. The left seems to be okay. Ish, nah, it's not. It does feel good. Ooh, yeah, this one is very inconsistent. The right one. This definitely stick drift. It's relatively minor, but I cannot leave this stick in, so I will need to replace that. So the right analog is faulty. I also don't think the percentage is correct. I think it just skips over. It skips a lot of the circle when I spin it around. The left one might be okay. Oh, and it disconnected. Okay. Good. Maybe the USB. One of the later revisions, so VX7 or VX8 as they are officially called, the motherboard. Then the USB is, yeah, that goes faulty a lot. And unfortunately, the USB is just not very stable. Because on the earlier revisions, and I can show that actually, so let me grab the USB port. So there we go. This is the USB port as you will find it in the later DualShock controllers. And this is the USB port you will find in the earlier DualShock controllers. And the big difference, as you can see, besides the ground legs, you can ignore that, is in these 5 pins right here. These are through hole and that makes them much more stable, and these are on the motherboard, but the motherboard itself is also very small. So if you use too much force to plug in the USB cable, maybe some of the traces might become loose or just unstable, and that, or in worst case scenario, you can even rip off the whole USB port. So that's why you see when it's plugged in a certain way it's connected, but then if you move it a little bit it's disconnected again. So overall it's not a great design choice by Sony to do that for the later DualShocks, but honestly I have a lot of complaints about the last DualShock revision. So there's a lot wrong in my opinion, but that's besides the point. But yeah, basically this is the much better USB port. So anyway, maybe we need to replace the USB port, or maybe we need to resolve it a bit more if I can, because it's quite a tight space in which the USB port is located. So it's not that easy to access the pins to strengthen them a little bit with solder. So, but I will need to see that later. I just wanted to talk about this, I guess. But let's now test the rest of the controller, see if that is in okay state. Okay. Oh, I need to reconnect it, of course. Okay. 1, 2, oké. Deel 2 van de opname met de PlayStation 3 controller. Okay, so the controller is connected again. Kind of. I will test the face buttons now. And now pressing in select, and it's very hard to press in. If I press it normally, it will... Okay, now it's a little better. But you need to put in a little bit of force. Same for the start. And now L1 and L2, which are giving input, but it's really spongy, a bit of a spongy response, so it's not really great. And L3 and R3 are working. Oh, I will just turn this off. So now the D-pad. We'll scroll down a little bit. That's okay. That is okay as well. Oh wait, wrong buttons. The back buttons are okay. Okay. So the controller is working, but yeah, the back is obviously not reusable. So I will see if I have a replacement for that, and I will need to sort out the USB, and of course the N-lock, which is a little bit drifting on the right side. Yeah. So let me write it down for number 4. So there we go. And now let's move on to controller number 5. Here is controller number 5. And yeah, first impression, it's not looking great. Again, really dirty and missing the sticker, unfortunately. But the shell itself is in pretty good condition, and I can tell what controller this is because this is a translucent controller. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but that means that this is basically the first version PlayStation 3 controller that Sony has brought out, and this is a 6-axis. And I know from working on these that these controllers do tend to have stick drift because the analog sticks are really terrible. And honestly, I think these might be shot, but let's plug it in and see what will happen. Oh, before I do that, and it's also missing the middle piece between the shoulder buttons that is supposed to finish off the shell, but it's always separate in the 6-axis version. So it's not like the DualShock controllers where it's just only a front and a back. You have these tiny plastic parts which unfortunately gets lost often. I am also right now working on another 6-axis and that's also missing one middle piece, so that's really annoying and it's difficult to get replacements for that. I'm not sure if the USB port on this is okay, so let me look under a light a bit more. Oh, yeah, it seems to be okay. I could not see all the pins, so that's why I want to check. I don't want to short anything out, of course. So let's plug it in and see what we get. It's not connected yet. So it does show up, but it does not want to accept the handshake, which is needed for the controller to show the input. So I will plug it in again. And unfortunately, it doesn't want to show up. I don't really see anything faulty with the USB port, so I don't know why it's doing that. I will just give it a quick clean with IPA. Okay, so now let's see if anything shows up. And unfortunately it doesn't. I think maybe what might be wrong with this, it of course could be the USB port, but I also think that maybe the flex PCB on the inside might be faulty, which means that the PlayStation button does not register any input, so that's why it doesn't want to connect to the USB port. So I will just write down what I found, and we will move on to the last controller. Oh no, almost forgot to put a sticker on this one. Let me do that quickly. So here's the last PlayStation 3 controller, and first impression is that it's pretty clean, actually. Again, it's A1, so it's one of the later revision DualShock. The USB is looking good. Let me now quickly give it a number. There we go. And just plug it in, see what happens. Oh boy. Wow. I did not expect this, that's for sure. Okay, so basically the analogs are in absolutely terrible state, which means that when they are just focused onto the right side like this, where they're totally not centered, then they're probably not connected to the flex PCB inside. Because with this last revision, the analog sticks are not on the motherboard, but actually have their own flexible PCB by which they are connected via a ribbon connector, if that makes sense. And I think that connection is just not proper. And that's why it shows up like this. This is really strange. And this button is permanently pressed in. The L1 and L1 and R2 are working. You can see some of the front buttons are working as well. Start and select are working, but yeah, it's just spacing all over the place. I think that maybe the flex PCB is just faulty, but I'm not sure until I look on the inside. But what I will write down for now is that let me test the D-pad as well. Oh my god. Yeah, I think what might be faulty is the flex PCB on the inside of this. It tends to fail quite often. It's very fragile, so if a tiny little crack happens or a tiny little fault just happens across one of the tracks, then it just does this weird spacey shit. I will censor that. And it just tends to press in all the buttons at the same time, and it will not function properly at all. So yeah, let me write that down. So with the last controller test, I will wrap up this video. I don't even know if this will go up or if I will keep this for own use, but we will see. At least thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.